Please lead us. Sure. Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, I'm used to James carrying the torch here, but this is my first meeting as the interim president. Welcome. We have a big crowd here today. That's potentially exciting. I guess I'll just jump right into the agenda, and we'll get into public comment. Do we have any speaker slips?
Got a stack here.
Yeah. Man. Michelle Flynn.
I got it. Michelle Flynn couldn't be here today, so I will read on behalf of her. Do I need to stand in a specific spot?
Go by the microphone.
Oh.
Okay,
Face
right
camera.
here. Face the camera. Hi.
Oh, sorry. I think Christian has camera.
There. Where is, I'll just look at the
Right
wall.
there's good. You're good.
I'll look at the wall. Okay. So from Michelle Flynn. When I first started working at OTA, it was an honor to be a teacher here. I loved the energy of our school and the academic rigor in the classrooms. I felt supported and challenged as an educator. There was consistency in the classrooms. John heard us and teachers had our backs. Unfortunately, our school is not what it used to be. Even if I was not moving, it would be difficult to stay here another year if I knew that things would not change. Here are just some of the many things that have happened that I would like to address. I hope that these are taken into thoughtful consideration so that next year can be a more positive experience for not only the teachers and staff here, but for students and parents as well. Consistency and communication. We have not had a consistent schedule this year. Prep periods have been taken away from teachers numerous times. I understand there's a sub shortage, but subs are not even being found for PE or music or robotics. Oftentimes we can't plan for that missed time and just have to wing it because we are told last minute. Special education support. There are a lot of needs in each of our classrooms and these needs are not being met. We need more teachers in our special education department and more aides. Our school is growing and we need a special education director and teacher as separate positions. We also need more support teachers that have consistent and regular schedules with teachers. I only had a consistent schedule with a supporting aide in my classroom the first few weeks of school. During those weeks, I was able to plan small group lessons for this aide to support my students who are not working on grade level. Unfortunately, I cannot plan for RTI support when I do not know who is going to be in my classroom or if they're going to be in my classroom at all. Parents. It is disheartening to say that there have been multiple occasions where parents have yelled at teachers and yelled at office staff. They have also emailed extremely inappropriate comments to teachers. This type of behavior from parents has affected the whole staff and is unacceptable. These are just a few of the many factors that have contributed to low morale at our school and the decision for many teachers to leave. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time.
For Whitney.
I
I was gonna say, well, is this a board?
Yeah, you just
member?
do board comments.
Yeah,
Well,
when- when do
she's
we-
making a comment as a member of the public, so she's not, it's not part of the presentation. She's got two.
Yeah, I mean, you're either on the board or you're part of the public.
I just, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll let you go right after this. Alex Thompson.
As yourself.
Yes. Hi, I'm me. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Alex Thompson and I'm the current third grade teacher at OTA. This is my first year here, but it is not my first time teaching at a charter school or being in a charter school environment. I grew up going to a charter school like many of your students and was previously teaching at a charter school in Santa Barbara. That campus went all the way to 6th grade and had 750 students enrolled. I was excited to be hired at another charter school here in San Diego, considering my last experience was so positive. However, there have been many situations that have shown me that as teachers, we are under-supported and undervalued. At my previous school, we had one prep period a day. Whether it was PE, dance, drama, ceramics, art, or library, our students had many opportunities for enrichment on campus, and teachers had an adequate amount of prep time. There was always a sub found, and if one of those staff members was out, our prep time would be honored. This is not the case here at OTA. Almost weekly this school year, we go without a prep time or planning time because a sub could not be found. We understand there is a sub shortage, and we support our staff taking their time off. But from our point of view, there is a lack of effort to provide a sub for PE, music, or robotics classes. There's also a lack of communication, and we are often not told that there will be a sub for one of these classes. We have to communicate amongst the teachers in order to figure out there won't be a PE teacher or music teacher for the day. It has happened on multiple occasions in which we send our students to these classes only to have them come back because there is no teacher and we were not told. This is unacceptable conditions to place a teacher in, and has happened multiple times throughout the school year. At my previous school, teachers had ample resources to support our diverse needs on campus. We had 6 special education teachers over the entire campus, at least 1 aide per classroom, and a teacher tutor / curriculum specialist per grade level. We also had embedded and designated ELD time in our classrooms for emergent multilingual students. We had ELD curriculum for these students and additional support with our school's bilingual liaison. We had specified ELD training, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of several committees that work to support our emergent multilingual students and their families. We have had 1 opportunity for professional development this year, and we do not have enough aides in our classrooms for our special education services, and they have been suspended because of this. We do not have designated ELD curriculum or ELD time embedded into our schedule, which is against California state regulation. We do not have the resources to support any of the diverse students that we are being told to recruit and enroll at OTA. Lastly, at my previous charter school, staff did not want to leave the school until they retired. The turnover rate at that school was more than 20 years. The average turnover rate at OTA is 2 years. We are actively looking for 9 separate positions, not including aides that we need in our classrooms, with what seems like no urgency to fill these positions. I believe things don't change at OTA, and we continue to not support our staff and our students, but there will be more than the current amount of positions to fill for the next school year. Thank you for your time.
Chelsea Van Worden.
Good evening, I'm Chelsea Van Worden, and I've been the 4th grade teacher at OTA for the last 5 years. I've seen the school in many stages, from longstanding principal before a pandemic, through a pandemic with interim principals, and now post-pandemic with another change of admin coming in the near future. What I've grown to know and love about this school has started to change over the last few years for multiple reasons. I think it's important to understand that as teachers, we have the best interests of your children academically, socially, and emotionally at heart, and we take our job seriously. I know that I personally always make it clear during my back to school presentation that me as the teacher and you as the parents are on the same team and should be communicating and supporting each other in order for the students to be the most successful. For the last few years, it doesn't seem to me that this is a known fact. As a small school, we teachers and staff rely on each other for support and advice across all areas of education. So when we hear of incidents that demean us as professionals or doubt our abilities to do our jobs, it's quite disheartening. It makes the decision to leave a specific school or the whole teaching profession in general that we've always wanted to be a part of much easier. As one of the few staff members not actively looking for another job for next year, it's important for the board members and families at this school to know that the turnover of great educators will continue for years to come if changes are not made and school-related decisions keep heavily relying on the opinions of those who are not in our classrooms on a daily basis versus professional opinions. I've loved being a part of OTA. I would really like to see a more supportive approach to the way the board, school community, and teachers work together to make OTA a better place. Thank you.
Katie Hustle.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Hustleton, and I'm the 1st grade teacher currently at OTA. This is my 1st year teaching at Old Town Academy. And since joining the OTA community, there have been many positive experiences, including working with the amazing staff who is always willing to step in and help wherever needed, being part of the high academic expectations of students, and the generosity of the overall school community. However, unfortunately, I do feel that the challenges of this year have far outweighed the positives for many of us. Overall, the year has been filled with extreme inconsistency and lack of appropriate support. My class has a very high population of students with IEPs and social emotional support needs. And therefore, in the fall, a classroom aide was hired to support in the 1st grade classroom. Within 2 weeks of the new aide working in our classroom, she was pulled temporarily to fill staff shortages in the special education department. What was thought to be a temporary solution that would only last a few weeks has extended throughout the entirety of the school year. As much as it pains me to say, I do not feel that I have been able to adequately meet the needs of the students in my class as one individual with little to no support. Due to inadequate staffing, the special education support schedule has also been inconsistent. In speaking of staff shortages, I have lost countless hours of my own planning time this year when other staff members are absent and there are no substitutes to cover. The loss of planning time has also been unbeknownst to me until oftentimes right before it occurs. So I have been left to scramble together lessons and activities to occupy 45-minute blocks on multiple occasions. I feel that it is assumed that the teachers will pick up the slack and take on extra work without being asked when another staff member is absent, rather than the school planning ahead to have proper coverage of the class. In the early elementary grades, we are with the students from the very start of the school day to the very end of the school day. And if we don't have a planning time during that time, we cannot get any of the additional work done until after school hours. That's our own personal time. When it's taken, we're left with no other time. When previously expressing these concerns, I have been told on several occasions that these are challenges that schools across San Diego and beyond are facing. And while I understand this to be true, I believe that if OTA truly prides ourselves on going above and beyond other schools, then we are simply making excuses rather than directly addressing and fixing apparent issues within the school. Upon entering OTA, I received no professional development. I had no training on the curriculums that were taught at the school, and I have had inconsistent access to many of the necessary curriculum materials. I previously taught at a public school in a low-income and underserved neighborhood of South Los Angeles. And as I took the next step in my career and accepted a job at OTA, I looked forward to seeing a completely different side of the education system. However, I have seen many parallels in the organization, inadequate support, inconsistency, and parents pushing appropriate boundaries at both schools. I am all for being flexible and going above and beyond. However, when this is pushed too far with no support, it leads to burnout, low morale, and high staff turnover, all of which are evident at OTA. In moving forward, I encourage you all to include the voices of OTA staff members in the decision-making and take real steps toward improving the overall school environment. Thank you.
I don't have any additional speaker slips.
You got the last speaker slips.
I think we ran out of speaker slips.
Can you just cross out my name? Yeah, no problem.
Hopefully I'm close enough. Hello, my name is Krista Surgeon, and I'm the Education Specialist and Special Education Director for Old Town Academy. And I'm here to voice my concerns and to use my voice to fight for the needs of students with disabilities. For the past year, I've been asked to take on the duties of a special education administrator, an education specialist, and a CalPADS data management technician. These are 3 separate full-time jobs and need to be treated as such. When you ask one person to perform the workload of 3 full-time jobs, it affects everyone at school. But mostly it affects the students with disabilities. The students on IEPs here are incredible kids, and they deserve to have an education specialist that is fully focused on their progress and on their learning. They should not have to fight with the competing demands of administrative duties and putting out fires every 3 minutes. It's not fair to our students. Furthermore, the special education department has been chronically understaffed for paraprofessionals since October. This means that I have had to pull instructional aides from general education classes to service students with IEPs, either as one-on-one aides or as paraprofessionals. Again, being this short-staffed affects everyone at our school. General education teachers are trying to manage rowdy classes of 30 or more students, and students with disabilities cannot get the consistency and the routine that they need. And this is not acceptable. The special education department needs to be properly staffed and supported. This means there should be 1 full-time special education director, 2 full-time education specialists, and 3 full-time paraprofessionals. This does not include the one-on-one aides that some students may need. While I understand that there is a concern for cost, there is a greater concern for sustainability. The sustainability of the special education program and the sustainability of this school. Students with disabilities are the most protected students here. And if a lawsuit is filed, it will most likely come from the parent of a student with an IEP. I am warning you because I love the staff members and the students at the school. If you do not properly budget and staff this department, you are walking into another lawsuit. And before you say that the school can't afford it, remember this. How the board spends every dollar at this school is a reflection of its priorities. By not making the investment to create a strong foundation for the special education department, you are sending a message to teachers and to parents that you aren't willing to prioritize the needs of students with disabilities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Do you have any other speakers since we ran out of speakers? Thank you. We're going to move on to board member comments. Would you like to go first?
Sure, absolutely. I have my own personal statement I'd like to read, and then I also have a survey that I sent out from May that I'll show you some of the present levels of staff. And then I also have the staff's opinion for the calendar for next year. Let me do everything or just my comment?
Why don't we start with your comment?
Okay.
Yeah, then
Sounds
we
good.
can kind of respond.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Upon my hiring, I'm Jennifer Whitney and I'm the kindergarten teacher currently at Old Town Academy. Upon my hiring in June of 2020, I was overjoyed to be at a school with supportive staff and dedicated and involved parents. I'm so thankful to the staff members and parents who have provided me with support, resources, and guidance over the last 2 years. While there have been many challenges, including a global pandemic, I'm thankful for my time at OTA and will cherish the relationships and memories I have made here. However, I've decided to continue my teaching career elsewhere and not to return to OTA next year. Along with the other staff members who have made their statements tonight, I have experienced many of the same obstacles and challenges during this school year at OTA. I'd like to thank my fellow staff members for their candor and willingness to share tonight. I have many of the same concerns, and I don't want to reiterate too much of what staff members have already said, but my main concerns are lack of substitutes, lack of aides, lack of lunch duty coverage, lack of prep periods, and cancellation of prep periods throughout the entire year, professional development opportunities, and lack of professional development and training on curriculum, training on safety instructions, and also the special education department and the support that they need.
Other board members?
I'll just, thank the staff for coming in and for all your statements, and for those who prepared statements, thank you. And I don't really have a response. I think we'll accept it, your statements taken into consideration, and hopefully actions will speak louder than any response or words. With that, it has been an extremely challenging year and tough year. And I would say there are a lot of good things going on at Old Town Academy. The future is very bright here. We're certainly in tumultuous times. There certainly are budgetary constraints here at the school. There is a lack of a workforce out there for some of the positions that we have been trying to fill for quite some time. But there is a lot going for this place. The staff is certainly a huge part of that. The parents, the students here, the curriculum. It seems like the recovery from COVID it's tough. It's challenging. We crammed a full year in what was really a normal operating program for about a half a year. And that's challenging. And it is, we do rely on the staff. In my other profession, I have a hard time getting people. And I will tell you that out in the public, tensions are high. In every workforce, in every workplace, certainly around here, I think in this country, people are burned out, they're tired, they've been isolated. Their entire reality, new reality has been changed. The workloads are increased because people just can't get up and come into work for whatever reason. And it's hard and it's challenging. And there is going to be turnover here, unfortunately, clearly from the statements. And what I would say is, I'm sorry you had a bad experience here. This place has had a lot of joyous, great years. We still provided a safe education and a good education for the students that were here. And certainly that's not all we had strived to attain, right? We want greatness. We want excellence, and it's challenging and it's hard. And there's a lot of hard decisions made here. And I know nobody leaves this place, certainly from the staff, because I know and believe in the staff here. Nobody leaves here on a whim. I know it's hard and challenging decisions that you guys have made. And what I would say to you is good luck. We wish you nothing but the best in your new endeavors. And we're going to stay here and we're going to battle and we're going to fight for this place. And we're going to do the best we can to provide a good, superior education for the kids at the school and have a great experience for the families here. But it hasn't been ideal. It's been a struggle, but there's a lot going for this place. We do have a new venue on the horizon. We do have quite a bit of money. We are putting out for more and more grants to try and recover economically. And that's one part of it, right? We have to recover emotionally, spiritually, and we got to dust ourselves off, reinvent ourselves, and move forward. And we understand. We thank you for your time here. We thank you for all the hard work that you did and helped us get through COVID, because it was hard, but you guys did a great job. I hope you're proud of the work that you did here, because we're proud of what you put out. And no decision on this board is made lightly, certainly with the budget. And we're up for more challenges, and we're trying to do things to mitigate that. So we're doing our best. I will tell you that. This group of volunteers are all in, and I'm proud of the work that all of you put in, and I do appreciate it. So with that, we hear you loud and clear, and thank you, because we don't know what we don't know, and if you don't come in and say it, then we don't know. So thank you, and we'll move on the agenda.
Yeah, James, very, very well said. I don't think I can really build much on that other than to say that we hear you loud and clear. It's very important that you guys got your voices out there. You also gave us some good actionable items from that we can build off of that are not solely budget related. That is a big factor, and we're doing our best to manage it to the best of our abilities, but there's some other things in here that we can work hard to incorporate. The behavioral stuff, the parent teacher community relationship is something that we need to work hard on and try our best to repair. But unfortunately, I think as James hit, it's just, society in general has kind of gone off the rails a little bit. So we need to look hard in the mirror, work better as a community to be supportive, because we all recognize how important you guys are. So thanks again.
I don't have a lot to say, but my mom was a teacher, so I have nothing but admiration. I saw what she did growing up, so thank you for all you've done. And it was tough to probably, or maybe it wasn't tough to say it, because you've been dealing with it for this whole year and maybe more so. Yeah, it's frustrating to hear. It's frustrating to be a board member here sometimes. Echo James' point, I'm not going to give up on OTA. I'm still going to continue to look for properties for us to move in. That'll help out from a budgetary perspective, from a morale building perspective. And I can assure you that frivolous spending isn't happening. We're trying to make the most of every dollar that we have to support the location, the building itself, the people in the building. So pains me to hear you talk like that because obviously it's been building in you and it's not easy to walk away from. Easy to walk away from us, but not from the kids or the community here at OTA. So the lack of communication from us to you, I apologize. If there's anything we can do moving forward, I took notes and can hopefully improve from that to help you guys out and to support our teachers in the future, just to keep the teachers that we have. The teachers are, in my mind, the most important part of any school. So thank you for all you've done and that you've put up with, and hopeful that that we can continue to be OTA from what it once was, what it could be, and I hear you, and I'm frustrated with just like you guys as well.
I would certainly like to add that those of you who are leaving, we will miss you. We appreciate it, the blood, sweat, and tears you guys have put in. Those of you who are staying, thank you for fighting the fight with us. I will tell you, everybody on this board has volunteered and has put our head down, and will continue to work and commit to you guys to continue to work to support you as best as possible.
Okay. Move on. Reports and presentations. First item here, treasurer fiscal report. Talby, do you want to start, or Josh, you want to jump in?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Do you guys all have handouts?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I do not have a handout, so I'll try to show you, guide you along on my computer. So, so first thing, 1 second. Same as always. So if you have this front cover, this is just like the summary sheet. The other two attachments after this is kind of like the itemized breakdown of the summary. I'm just going to talk about the summary. If you have any questions about the itemized thing, feel free to stop me. So first column is the 21-22 estimated actuals. So we don't do the usual budget report now, given we're so close to the end of the year. We might as well just kind of project how the school may or may not be doing. So in summary, how it looks like at this particular, or the last particular moment that we're working with the school, 2021-2022 estimated actuals. If you look a couple lines down to the bottom where it's a surplus/deficit, the school this year currently projects to be running at about a deficit of $136,000. It could be better, could be worse. This is just an estimate, but the take-home point is there's a negative expectation of over $100,000 potentially of how this year will end. The second column is the 2022-23 preliminary budget. This is the budget that we've been meeting together with and just trying to get something going for next year. The main points that you want to take note of is this is budgeting a 266 enrollment and a 253 ADA. And if you scroll down, we've tried to factor in as many expenses as we could regarding staff increases and whatnot, and additional positions on the and all that. And as of right now, it's still relatively conservative. Some of the expenses are relatively conservative, but as of right now, the preliminary budget for next year suggests that there will be a deficit of $456,000. So I could stop right there and field some questions.
Josh.
Yeah.
Is that so much larger one than the one?
It is, and so,
meeting?
yeah, so let's talk about two things. So number one, this year, that number obviously is not final. There is still some money that we're expecting in, coming in from the foundation and a few other things, but it definitely, as we've said all along, we're gonna run a deficit this year. The deficit for next year is substantially higher than we had originally been looking at for a number of reasons. Number one, we wanted to make sure that when we built this out, that we were building in not just a normal 3% adjustment, but we built in additional adjustments for the teachers as well. We want to make sure that how we are paying our teachers and the structure with which we're paying them is much more in line with what we're seeing across the county. And so that we've got a couple of options that we've played with. This by no means is the final word, but that is something that we have built in initially.
Is this commensurate with the numbers that we received that were not green highlighted spreadsheet? Or was that,
From a couple months ago that we
no,
looked
just
at?
from this
Just
week?
recently.
Today, right, or yesterday?
Yeah, it's just.
So,
last
so
couple
Josh, is this 8? What does this represent?
So this represents all the teachers with the step, their typical step increase with 5% on top of that, as well as the additional
Additional
positions
Yeah.
like aides and a sped teacher that we included.
Okay.
So that's why it's different from last time.
Right.
we
So
met.
this matches the kind of latest.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, so I did do an 8% increase for the teachers, and 8% would cost about $31,000.
So this in the paper is the 3 and the 5?
This right here, what we're looking at right now is just the
Just the
5.
5, okay.
If we
And
did
that's the 8 is what you have in the paper.
on this paper,
Okay.
8, yeah, which would cost over $30,000 more just for next
So
year.
up to 480. Sounds right.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So that's 5% raise, and then that's, how many additional?
3% equity adjustment.
No,
Positions.
additional positions.
Yeah, there's additional, what, 3 other,
We incorporated,
Four
we put
additional.
in,
4, thank you.
we put in the positions that were leaving because of that ELOG, the grant that we had, and we took out the 2 aides that were given to them this year and the felonies position originally in that first budget, and this one put them back. Plus special ed, we added another employee for the special ed program.
The special ed's not counted with the 4 though, that we're adding, or it is counted with.
It is counted with that in here. Mhm.
I think we, I don't know if we offset a TK position. No, did we
We
not?
incorporated TK within K.
Okay, you're right, that's right.
We didn't have enough enrollment.
And that's certainly something, to take away too, is at full enrollment, the numbers look different. Right, and that's something that everybody who's in attendance and, in person, everybody's just sitting up here, everybody who's watching online. With full enrollment, this is a very different discussion. And so I think those are conversations that we need to have within ourselves, say, hey, what are we doing and how are we driving that?
There is, a little bit of good news on the horizon. So the governor's latest proposed budget has some COLA increases. So some of these ADA numbers, they might actually be bumped up a little bit. Obviously not to the tune of the deficit, but
But it could make
it could help.
it's
Yeah.
expected to be reasonably
Yeah,
large.
yeah.
Are you hearing anything on SB 830
That's the hold harmless.
enrollment?
No, same type of thing. It's all on the governor's docket, but has to go through.
Just got picked up by SEIU.
So like a week ago, I looked and it was solved in the.
I thought they were looking at January 23.
Hmm.
So, and that's enrollment. So if you guys aren't aware of SB 830, you should look into it. It funds schools by enrollment and not ADA. And it has been proposed for about 5 years, and it's as close as it's ever been.
And that's separate from the state surplus and the potential for separate funding for the.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is, Michael's been sitting in on the meeting, so he has a good insight, but this is what we wanted to show the board today. This is what we're working with, obviously. It's not finalized, but I think the take home point is it doesn't look the best per se, and any type of feedback is, I think, more than welcomed, and I think Michael would love to have it, and so.
Yeah, question. So I see the big chunk of it is salaries and benefits, right? The services and other operating expenses also jumped by 80 grand.
Okay, yeah, so there's about service and other operating expenses. Oh, the whole section, yeah. So there's 2 things. One thing in there is the rent increase about $30,000 next year. So that's a big expense. The other thing is we have some restricted funds revenue in there. It's called the Extended Learning Opportunity Program. The other 50,000 that you're seeing in there is we didn't know what the school was going to spend on it yet. So we just put a placeholder to offset earning the revenue. Does that make sense? But it's so in essence, it's pretty much just the lease at this point.
So just presented as sort of the baseline that we're working on, or is there an action item associated with it, or is this just kind of, hey, we've taken an initial pass into numbers and here's how it shakes out?
Yeah, so this is the initial pass. The board won't actually approve anything until probably June, whenever your last board meeting is, before July 1st. This budget will be due to the district. We'll send it to the district, and then the board will have to approve it so we can be in compliance and send it to the district.
Actually wants it June 24th.
So the district wants it June 24th. So as long as you have a board meeting before that, which you will, yeah.
It's the 8th.
It is currently the 8th, and I think one of the things we're gonna talk about later is we're gonna need to have a virtual one a little bit later in June as well to go over specifically numbers and so we have everything finalized.
Also, we're gonna have a board election between now and then. So we'll have that later on. We'll probably be introducing.
Yep.
It's supposed to be quiet.
July.
Are there any other questions on this? Anything else you wanted to highlight?
I think we've highlighted this a lot over the last few months and
There's a subheading here for donation policy. You want to talk through that?
yeah, so I don't know, is there a copy of that in there? I know that we sent, everybody got a copy of it last month. We sent it out. Made it in, did it?
No, but I think
Okay.
since we decided, we talked to our auditor and decided that the donation policy should be run through the foundation, is what we were looking at. And then we would just take the donations from the foundation. So the equipment loan and donation policy, we have to propose it to the foundation, and then the foundation has to accept it and go from there. So
Then I will take that up and take it to the foundation then for.
yeah, it was recommended to us to not have that as board business and keep that consistent with donations and those things go through the foundation. So we'll have a proposal to the foundation at some point once we finalize it.
And just quick question on that, how does that impact the existing items that have surfaced as being already currently donated to the?
We're gonna do a full, well, there is already a full audit of what the items are that we're loaning to the school and accounting for them and where they are. And so if the foundation accepts the policy, then they would accept those items as well.
Okay, then the signing off on the paperwork would happen through the foundation.
Yeah.
People who want the
Yeah.
goods, okay.
Yeah, so it's a work in progress and doesn't seem too difficult at this point.
I'm gonna keep blazing ahead here. Teacher liaison report.
Awesome. So I gave the staff another survey for the month of May, just to see how they were doing. There weren't a lot of comments on this one, less than the previous one here. Take my down, pass it around. I'm sorry, actually, you want to pass it? Okay, so, and then take one of these as well.
Is this acceptable for open session or?
Yes, yeah, I'm not really sharing anything. But I just wanted you to see how everyone's feeling. And you already got a general idea of how people are feeling based on teacher comments tonight, but I just wanted you to see that as well. And then I also included some comments on the back, but there wasn't a lot on this one. Mainly like, as I talked about, that parent-teacher relationship. And then I also included our pie chart with the student or teachers' votes and staff's votes for the calendar for next year. It looks like option A was the most popular. I included either option A, B, or C, and then those who didn't care about the calendar or just weren't here next year, that was for them.
You want to talk through the highlights?
Just wanted to share.
Okay. Great. Let's give everybody a minute to look at in case there's any questions that come up from that. I think it's super helpful to have this. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. Just want some time to digest, maybe we can follow up at closed session. Office manager report, Natalie.
I just have two quick updates. As far as enrollment, we are still filling a couple of spots that we do have open. We currently have 4 TK students with an offer out, and then we have 5 in our kinder to make up the TK kinder combination class for next year. So we're sitting at 29 for that class. We did lose one of our new students that had received an offer in first grade, so we are back at looking for one more student. And so there's 29 that's in that class. And then we have 30 in second, third, fourth, and fifth. And then we're looking for one spot in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we are currently sitting at 265 for next year. Though
One
it
spot in
is
each of 6th, 7th, and 8th, or one spot?
one spot in 6th, 7th, and 8th. So 3 spots
Yeah.
in each. Yeah. And so we are sitting at 265 for next year, but it's still really early, and I'm sure we will have some movement during the summer, as we always do. We do have short wait lists in all of our grades. It is significantly lower than in previous years. And then I have an update for the Universal Meal Program next year. We did get notification from San Diego Unified that they have agreed to be our lunch vendor for next year. So that's actually really good news because it does not require us to go through a formal bidding process. As you know, that alone, if we have to do that, is quite long. So we have to get bids from at least three different vendors. And so far up to this point, we hadn't heard from any, so we were really worried about that one. We're waiting to hear back from them to set up a conference to go over final details, but as far as we know, they are just covering meals, which they don't cover any of the administrative tasks associated with it. So we would need things like our own POS system, our own staffing that are serve safe certified, because they will not be downstairs passing out the lunches during that lunch hour. And then we did have our recheck from the health department, and we passed. So now we officially have our health permit, so we can proceed forward with the National School Lunch Program. We did send out a lunch survey to our families, and we will probably send it out again because we only had about 70 responses. And of those 70 families that responded, 48.5% indicated that they would opt into our program. Of that 48, 84% of those families have not qualified for a free and reduced lunch before. So that is an entire cost that we would have to provide. We don't have the reimbursement rates for next year as of yet, but we are hopeful, and it is looking like it does cover about 85% of the cost. So we would be looking at 15% of the cost out of pocket.
Only for the kids that are free and reduced, right? Because the other kids, we have, if they take a lunch, they have to pay for the whole thing on our own. We don't get reimbursed for that.
We do, just at a lower rate. Right now we would get 100% of our free and reduced population, and then a percentage of all of our other demographics. And so moving forward, we don't know how that's going to work out just yet. We haven't heard from the state yet.
But what's the 85%?
The 85% is of those responses, 85% of those families have never qualified for a free and reduced lunch. So those would be the expenses that we would have to incur on our general budget.
Have you got anticipated in that?
No.
That maybe just a interpretation of the messaging, people saying, oh, great, I can get a free lunch, and not necessarily knowing, hey, it's a burden to the school.
In the survey that we sent out, we did indicate that it would be out of OTA's general budget, which is why we were looking to vend with San Diego Unified, because they are kind of the most affordable option at this point. It wouldn't be a vended option like we have currently, so it's not a pick and choose option. It's pretty much you get what they provide for the week, for the month, and it's very limited. So we were clear when we sent that survey out.
But I think I can say that even if it was clear in the instructions, the whole experience is new. And there may have been some confusion about, well, if I don't say yes now, does that mean we don't get a lunch option at all? And in reality, yeah, that's probably right, because if you don't say yes, you're not going to get a lunch option. There's not going to be a separate vended option. So, yeah, I think there probably still was a little bit of confusion about how it all is going to work.
Thank you, Natalie.
IT report. Christian, I don't recognize this. Who's this guy
Scared us
giving
the
us
first
our
time we went to
report?
the office.
I try to change it once in a while. Just two things real quick. During the spring break, I was able to do the upgrade on our network. Speed wise is amazing. It's way faster than it was before. Right now, we're topping with the whole entire school working around 300 to almost 400, on speed. And second, we had to do an emergency purchase. Our firewall that we currently have with Juniper was expired. Unfortunately, when I try to call San Diego, Juniper to try to figure out how we can renew our services, they replied and said that Old Town was not even in the contract, and it was through San Diego Unified. So I was talking to San Diego Unified, trying to figure out, hey, we need to, how can we renew our services? They said that they no longer service that at all. So doing my research, I was able to find a company that offered 3 years with the hardware plus installation. That includes the services for 3 years, and it came out to around $13,000. I spoke to Ms. Badia about this several times, mentioned this is something that is important to have. One, because this filters our network. Second, it also provides our network. If our firewall that we currently have right now goes down, we lose our internet. So those are the two things that I did that I have to report.
Questions?
So the previous firewall system was paid for by SDUSD at some
The
point?
funds, prop wire.
I see.
And this was, the firewall itself was purchased in 2011. So it's pretty old.
Did you get it from SD?
I didn't
USD or-
purchase it. This was purchased prior to the first IT that was here. I believe his name was Tobias.
No, I mean, the new one.
No, this was purchased not through San Diego Unified. Because they don't purchase, they don't take care of that. So we have to basically take care of our own.
But I think we can use YY funds for it.
We wouldn't have enough besides that. We only have $8,000 on a Prop Y. So if we use that, we pretty much, we will still have to pay out of our pocket.
But we can still assign 8,000 of it over, right?
Yeah. And we can ask for more YY funds. As long as it's hardware, hard goods here, we can ask for that. So
And the
We can do
hard
that.
goods, I think, were 8,000, 8,400, something like that, right?
It is 84, those are around there, 84,000 plus.
8,400.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
we can circle back on
yeah,
that.
that's good.
Okay, thank you. Real estate advisory panel.
it's a good time to sell property. If anyone's got some. It's a tough time to buy some property. So I've been on the hunt for about 11 months, and it predated me for a year, 16 months or so. And the funds were from Prop YY, and you guys have probably heard this spiel a little bit, but this is for our captive audience. So we have about $40 million to go out and look for a property for OTA, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but then when you look at what the costs are for large parcels and also what it would cost for rebuilding at prevailing wages, it does shrink that dollar amount. All that said, we are working with San Diego Unified and their brokerage arm, which is Colliers, and their do's and don'ts, and there's a long checklist of can't be by a fault line, can't be by pipelines, close to the freeway, cannabis, did I say freeway, close, liquor stores, train, so on and so forth. So Colliers has done an extensive letter writing campaign, and if you think that that works, they get some leads, but more of it comes from what we can source. If you guys have network, if you guys have people, please pass along to myself or anyone at the board. We've got about 65%. We've looked at 65 prospective locations, and whether that's serious leads or non-serious leads. Of that, about 27 have been progressed to beyond what is just getting a call back or an email and actually going out to the property. And right now we've got a location that we're working on. We're setting up a tour with San Diego Unified's real estate division and their appraiser. So there's some promise there, but again, it's not to jinx it or anything, but that is a promising lead. And again, I'll call out to those in the room, those that are listening. If you do have any leads, obviously we want to keep it close to Old Town, but we're expanding the search to locations that are desirable. Everything from strip malls to defunct churches to locations that it's all complete tear down to existing warehouses that can be retrofitted as well. So that's the gist of where we are right now. And again, if anyone's got any suggestions or leads, please let me know. We're close a couple times, and hopefully with the market as it is right now, interest rates right now, it will become even a better time and a stronger time on our end for purchasing.
Thank you, Walker. Questions? Ooh, well, to me. Workers update discussion. I remember Jamie doing this. It's a new thing. You guys hazing the new guy? All right, new principal search committee. So obviously we are actively looking for a new executive director or principal. We have received some applications to date. I think somewhere in the order of 15, and I've culled those down to, I wouldn't say a short list yet, but just to kind of get a sense of the quality of that pool. We have the benefit of having Ms. Padillo here to steady the ship and to continue to stay on, not indefinitely, but hopefully for the next couple of months or as long as it takes for us to find the right person, the right fit. So I'm going to, knowing that we have transition here on the board and folks are dropping off with the elections, I'm actively looking for the interview through the search committee. I've already kind of reached out independently to folks, and actually Topher's not here.
Oh, he's
He's
on
on
the,
the
oh, he's right there.
All right.
Topher, he's lost a little weight.
Yeah. But I've asked Topher to help lead the charge there, just knowing his background in academia, I think, and some of the initiatives that he's pursuing. I think it would make the right fit to have him help kind of shape that committee. But for the folks that I've reached out to, thank you for being willing. And I also wanted to open it up for us to discuss it. Who wants to be involved and may not have been involved today. So the goal would be just to talk process a little bit here, to look at the quality of that pool, have our folks evaluate, do some initial interviews, probably next week. And then some in-person interviews within the following 2 weeks.
Is the search for candidates over, or now are we culling down the list that we already have?
Still open.
It's still, yeah.
We've culled down the list, right? I think fairly soon, I was laying in bed reading resumes last night.
Oh, man.
It was great, super exciting. But they cut some down, but it's still open, and if someone else applied, that would be interesting. We'd certainly be interested.
Yeah, I don't know if someone in the room or
Right.
someone listening in has an idea.
Yeah, I think same idea as the real estate committee. I mean, we are a small community. The more that people can pitch in, if you've got an idea, you've got a neighbor, you know somebody that might be interested, we are open to all possibilities. We do have a couple of really strong candidates. So we're actively getting into that process now. So I don't have any discussion from the group here, but we're also going to be reaching out to staff members to be involved as well, and we'll start blocking out chunks of time and figuring out what that interview process is actually going to look like. I think it will be virtual to start, and then again we'll get folks in person and trying to be respectful of everybody's time as well. The second, and this is really more to tee up Jeremy, our election guru, but we do have
Unofficial.
the elections coming up, and I know there've been posts and other things, but I wanted to give you the opportunity with thousands of folks watching to introduce them to the process.
So yeah, we have annual elections for board positions. When the board was initially formed, it was formed in a staggered format so that there were initially 1, 2, and 3-year terms, so that various positions on the board kind of fall off sequentially rather than all at once, and that way we maintain some institutional memory here. So this year there will be 3 current members of the board whose terms will be ending, and we haven't yet discussed who, and it's not necessary here to discuss, but who will be attempting to join the board for another term. We also have the opportunity to, if those seats are open, which they will be, to appoint members to the board from the community at large. So my goal, just time being short for the year, is that if we have 4 weeks left in the school year, I'd like to finalize an understanding from the board, perhaps during this meeting, if there are intentions to appoint members of the community or to nominate members of the community for appointment for any of those seats, so that we can kind of get that established and understand how many seats will be open to elect in an election, and then we can solicit candidate statements from any parties who are interested in the election. The way that works is it's essentially a Google form that you fill out as a person interested in being on the board that answers the questions that will then kind of get posted to the election website as your candidate statement. And then I'd like to run the election over the course of a week, probably the last week of school. So while folks are still kind of engaged, so that second week of June being kind of the election week. That way, if we can have that later in June board meeting, at that point, the election will have run, we'll have new members either elected or appointed or both to introduce so that they can kind of get up to speed as the summer rolls on, get ready for next year. The election system that we have used in the past is a website called Election Buddy. It's pretty turnkey. It's third party, so we don't have any influence on it. We just kind of feed all the information into it, and then emails get sent out to the parent community. So I should say that our voters are our parents. And the way that the election is structured based on the bylaws is that each student's family is allotted 2 votes. And that way, and so if you have 3 kids, as a family, you get 6 votes. If you have 1 kid as a family, you get 2 votes, et cetera. So, and that is to account for households that have, you know, split parentage or, you know, any possibility. It's not, you know, so emails go out to the kind of primary email address that we have on file. And so this is a good opportunity, you know, to be as engaged as possible. If you have to update your email with the school office, best to do that now to make sure that you are included in the emails that will go out for the election. And so, yeah, if anybody has somebody that they were thinking of nominating or whatever, it'd be a good idea to kind of get that understood. If not today, then in the next week or so that we can then, when we send an email out to the parents, we can say there's 1 seat available, 2 seats available, 3 seats, but whatever it ends up being, just so that everybody knows kind of what their, what the chances of being elected. That's pretty much it.
Jeremy, those who want to run, how do they reach out? Who do they talk to?
So you can send an email to my Old Town Academy email address, probably the easiest, jturner@oldtownacademy.org. That's JTURNER. And I've received a couple already. And so those are, and so anyone who has sent me an email expressing an interest will receive a link once we've kind of got the appointments dealt with. We'll receive a link to the candidate statement Google Doc that gets a form that then just kind of gets fed into the election software. I do need some help admin wise, just making sure that I have a current list of parent emails so that I can input those into, and Christian, if you want to be my helper, getting that all inputted into the software, the election buddy stuff, so that we can kind of let it run. That would be great.
A call to action, like, is there a post that's been put out, or is it in the newsletter?
It's been in the newsletter. It's been mentioned. It's been mentioned in a meeting, and it's been mentioned in a couple of emails to parents. And as a result, I've received,
But this is again where,
I think, 3 so far.
but this is again where we as parents, right, or members of the board, members, teachers, what have you, can tap people on the shoulder.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's where we're gonna make the biggest difference is whether it's the volunteering for the board, volunteering for other things.
And I
Tap
think-
on the shoulder is the only way that's gonna work.
Right, and right now, the board, just so the other thing, the board, the size of the board is fixed based on the bylaws. We're maxed out at 11 members. So we can't, unless we change the bylaws, we can't build the board broader than it is right now. We have a minimum of 5, maximum of 11. And the stipulation regarding elected versus appointed is essentially that the majority of the board, whatever its number might be, has to be elected. And so if we're an 11-member board, obviously we would have 6 elected members at a minimum, and I think we'll obviously have more than that. So we don't have to worry about
We have 8 of them now.
Right, yeah. So that's not a concern. The other thing to keep in mind is that board membership, while is a great way to volunteer, there's oodles of opportunities every year as we form committees to look into various subjects to participate on the board, even if you're not an elected member of the board. We're constantly saying, well, let's make a committee to look into this or that. And board members frequently then solicit assistance from members of the community to participate in those committees and then make presentations to the board, affect the community in that way as well. So it's there's all sorts of opportunities, and this being the end of the year, it's a good opportunity to reach out to folks who are feeling like they want to be more engaged, to absolutely, put your hat in the ring and join the board or join the election for the board, but also don't feel discouraged if there's only 2 seats and there's 27 people who want to participate. That would be amazing. You're more than welcome to join committees and become a member of the board community.
And you just gave me a perfect segue.
Oh, good.
We're done with the election discussions.
Yeah.
Because a great way to get involved is to join the Parent Foundation. And Lynn's gonna give us a Parent Foundation report after a very successful event. I don't think we've had a meeting since that event, but it was awesome. Thank you very much. And I can't wait to hear the outcomes.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Lynn DiFilippo, Parent Foundation President. We are the group of people that meet the first Wednesday of the month, as opposed to the school board that meets the third Wednesday of the month. I still get questions about that. So yes, I apologize. I wasn't here for the last meeting. We were standing in line at the COVID clinic. Okay. Okay, so last time, just a little to piggyback on elections, foundation elections will be June 1st, so the week before board elections. So if you're interested in foundation board, we have the president, vice president, fundraising chair, and the treasurer open. Also communications coordinator, I believe. So we have those positions open, and we will be running our elections just during our open session at 6 p.m. Wednesday for that. So we've had some interest, so please show up if you have any interest in that. We're also holding our planning meeting that day for the next year. So we're hoping to get some sort of calendar by then. Maybe not. So it's going to be a longer meeting. Adult beverages and food are provided. Will be fun. It'll be a little bit longer though. Okay, what else? Elections. Thank you to Pablo today for doing tacos for the staff and some parents on campus. Thank you to 7th grade for hosting teacher appreciation staff lunch, and all the other room parents who graciously went above and beyond to do everything for our lovely, lovely teachers. Foundation funded Amazon wish list that week, and we just went in and just whatever was outstanding, Foundation came in and we just bought it, sent it all to the classroom. So that was our contribution. 8th grade has the last lunch on June 1st as well. So I'm sure Prente will provide something fabulous. Thank you to 6th grade for hosting Grandparents and Special Friend Day. I think it went pretty well. I think people were excited to come on campus. Short and sweet, in and out. Graduation is going to be June 14th. That is a foundation funded event. Chairs and stage are arriving that day, and then they will be exiting the day after, the last day of school. I will be handling that. Just wanted to make sure Mr. Ham and board have a golden osprey to decide, and if you could get that to Parente to put on the program, that would be great. And then last day is June 15th. It's a half day Crack Shack. One of our very long sponsors of our school has given us a kickback that day. So please, after pickup, let's all go to Crack Shack and they'll give us a.
What's the date of that?
Last day of school,
Thank you.
June 15th. noon. It's a Wednesday, last day of school on a Wednesday. Let's see. Okay, and then last but not least, April 29th, we had our spring fundraiser. As a foundation, we only bother parents twice a year, one for Jogathon, one for Spring Foundation. I mean fundraiser, sorry. Okay, here's a little spiel that I made. Here we go. Thank you to those that helped participate and funded our spring event. With 36 attendees and our entire staff, they got to see the low turnout of and support from our parents. Approximately 40 parents raised 40 grand. In the past, we've had 4 times the turnout and usually raised over double the amount. This support goes directly to the bottom line of our school. It aids teachers in supporting their classrooms, provides board with the budget to support teachers. This is unacceptable. There have been 6 foundation board members carrying the load for the last 4 years. We are getting tired. Thank you to the 3 parents who showed up the last meeting, but they cannot be expected to take on this load alone. We have offered mentorship this entire year without anybody holding our hand. The handbook, page. Under family and community involvement, section A, volunteering and philosophy at OTA. Says, there is a guideline of 40 volunteer hours. This handbook is enforced by the board. We ask that the board, with help of the foundation, an action item plan to hold families accountable and encourage this participation. We are very concerned about the community and how this will affect OTA moving forward. And I will personally be a committee of that. Okay, and then, we are funding our 45 K that we usually do for general donation. In the fall, we do 45, and in the spring, we do 45. So we will do our 45 general donation to the school board. And hope to continue that in the spring. We are putting together the planning for all of the jogathon. That's already being started for next year. And we also have Gartland just keeps on rocking it. And we are also presenting the school board a $97,000 grant. I wasn't here last time when James stepped down, but on behalf of me and foundation, gosh, me and James were there on kindergarten day 1, and I don't know who else would ever run the president of the board like James does, but he's going to be missed. And I can't even thank you for all the tireless efforts of your service and volunteering and just pouring your heart, you and your family's heart out to the school. And we owe a lot to you. So I just wanted to thank you for all your service and dedication. So thank you, James.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes, and there's 2 more things. 2 more things, sorry. Oh, and then the only last community event we have is kindergarten is collecting uniforms the last week of school. And we will then return those over to the foundation for 1st grade to sell during that week. And we will use those funds as well. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet. Thank you.
One question for Lynn.
Yeah.
If there were any bid items, are those to be collected? Are they here at the school?
Yeah, they're in the office under your last name. Yeah.
And Lynn, you said thanks to James for his dedication and service, and I tongue in cheek said I was more thankful for his wife's dedication. But thank you for yours too, over all the years as well. You're the backbone and foundation of the foundation, which I really enjoyed being a part of. That was kind of the heart of the school. I've said before, the board is kind of the ugly face. But thank you for all you've done for the school. It doesn't go unnoticed. I know sometimes it's taken for granted that all you and the foundation does. So hopefully we can breathe some life, breathe some new faces back in there. And my hope is that, you know, the last couple of years have been rough from the standpoint of interaction and engagement and getting to meet the parents of the new kindergarten teachers. So hopefully the steadying of COVID and back to events and back to foundation events can get the, never duplicated, but the next Lynn DiFilippo out there as well.
Thank you, Lynn. Are you going to be here on the 8th? Last
Of-
meeting? What's
8
that?
of
Of June? The transition to power of the foundation. I'm assuming it's going to be peaceful.
If we get somebody as president, I will not, but I get, no, I will not be here on the 8th. I thought it was the 15th. No?
No.
Okay.
We pushed it up, brought it up the 8th, because last day of school.
The new Lindy Filippo will be here.
Well, cannot thank you enough. All of the work that you've done here, carrying the ball at the foundation, the substitution time, the time just out on the field, just standing arm in arm through COVID, and all the outside things, the community days, the day at the Bay, the just all those events that made this place a home and a community, the virtual assemblies during COVID, right? It seemed like a silly little thing, but it was all of these little steps that we took that took a lot. And they were actually big steps. There was a group of volunteers doing that made this place a home and a community. And you guys are the heart, and you have been running the heart for quite some time. And hats off to you. We've been here for a long time and had some very good times here, had some very tough times here. But your work here is speaks for itself. And thank you so much for filling in the corners. And then just the horsepower of bringing that money to the budget, right? And making decisions easier to make for this group here. So not going to be easily replaced. We're all replaceable though. That's the idea of this machine, is that people come in, step in, rise to the occasion. You certainly rose to the occasion for this place and for your kids and for all these families' kids out here. So thank you for all that you've done. It's just amazing. I wish you'd be here on the 8th, because I think we're going to tip a pint afterwards. So we'll have to meet on the bay, but no alcohol on the bay. It's a bad look for me.
Well said.
Can I ask a question about graduation? So sorry. Can community members just go, or is it still one student per how many? adults?
That's the Erin Parente question. 8th grade room parent is
Got
in
it.
charge of graduation.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Question on the fundraiser. So, I think that parents would be interested to know the results of the fundraiser. I don't know if that's gone in the newsletter yet or not, and interested to see the relationship of this year's fundraising versus prior years.
I would love for you to come to a foundation meeting first Wednesday of the month. Financials
Well,
are provided.
I mean, in the form of, putting it out in the newsletter, I think, because not everybody can make those meetings. I find it's important. I think people would be interested to know that. And
We made it right about 40 for the spring fundraiser.
yeah, and that's quite a bit lower, like you said. than private hospitals. So I just think that, you might see some trickling in donations maybe at the end.
Good thought from Steve Spadillo scribbling away. I think that.
Well, I think 40,000 is incredible. I've never been at a school that's raised more than about 19. So I told you I thought the event was incredible, even though there was just a small number of people there. So I need to word this correctly, because I'm excited there's 40, but apparently not everybody else is. So I should talk to you before you put it in the newsletter, so that it goes in there the way you want it. Because we want to get more donations, I'm assuming is what you're referring to.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
also telling people what that money goes to, so that you can see what people's investment is getting to school.
But as a parent, would you want to know that $90,000 of foundation goes to school board funds just to keep the lights on?
I think it's important to be transparent and stress the urgency of people getting involved and pitching in.
And we've had years where it's been 300. 300,
Dallas,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we, 100, 150 is usually pretty average.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But that was with, 300 to 400 attendees. So I can't do that with 36.
You're just not inviting the right people, apparently.
Well, I think the reality is we've got to get out of COVID, right? I mean, everybody is feeling it. Certainly the foundation, and 36 people showed to the day at the Bay, so it's just indicative of what's going on right now. And I say to the staff and the families and the parents that we're going to come back. We are going to come back. They're going to come back stronger. And we are certainly down a little bit right now, but don't count us out. It's not your low points that you're judged on. It's how you redeem yourself. So I would say the future is still pretty bright here. We got more grants coming and a $40 million project that we're trying to get off the ground.
All right, I'm gonna keep thinking. Fiscal report.
So I'm just gonna highlight a few items that I put on your list. I just wanted to thank Mr. Ham for doing a great job with the poetry contest. It was incredible. It's the first time I've ever seen it. It was amazing. So thank you. Everybody had a great time. We had the auditor visit, and the week after that, we had San Diego Unified site visit. Both were fairly successful. The auditor hasn't told us that there's any problems at all. San Diego Unified gave us a list of a few things we needed to correct or to update, so we've got that list. I wanted to thank Tracy Beal for a donation. She paid for the installation and for an actual toilet. It's beautiful. It's in the boys' bathroom, so she got that for us, and the kids love it. They want to use that one because it's new. We also, I don't think Natalie mentioned, but we got a small water heater installed downstairs to take care of the sinks, because in order to pass the permit for the health, we had to have hot water, and we didn't have it attached. And so we did have to pay, but we ended up, it wasn't nearly as expensive. So we're excited to have that done the day before, or 2 days before they came to check everything out. So it was like down to the wire. Staff just finishing up on CAST testing this week. We posted all the jobs on EdJoin. We are starting interviews next week for all of those positions. We have applicants for everyone that we posted, so we're already moving on those. I met with a gentleman, Carl, across the street from Aspire. Apparently you guys used to have some meetings with Aspire and the Old Town community. They would like to start those up again. So we're going to be talking in June, hopefully after we hire the new executive director, and we can connect them to begin those meetings again. I've been working with the landlord on possible reduction in lease or maintenance expenses. Up to this point, it's been negative. However, they did ask to see our budget, which was good. So maybe we might be able to get some, make some headway with them. I participated in the San Diego Charter Advisory Committee, which was great, connecting Old Town Academy with a number of other charters and charter leaders. And let me see, we're just finishing staff evaluations and some reports that will be coming to you next month. That's it.
Thank you.
Any questions? Comments? Yeah, I'm gonna keep chugging along because we're running behind a little bit. I don't think we have students. No students today. You've heard all about this nice new toilets.
A holdover item for next.
Yeah. How much was the toilet and installation, and are there more toilets and installations that we need?
I think it was about $750 the whole thing.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need more toilets. We actually need another repair in one of the boys' bathrooms. One of the handles keeps getting stuck, so we're looking at how much will that cost. But we've been managing fairly well. It was like pretty bad for a while, but
Now, as I recall, the kindergarten toilet was having some issues. Did that get replaced or that was just plumbing?
It was just plumbing,
Just plumbing.
too
Okay,
much use, I think.
Okay.
First graders going.
Yeah, it's better now.
great. The question I had related to Dash's comment last meeting about the passing periods. That's of particular interest in my household too. I get that comment a lot. I don't know if can I ask the teacher? I guess I can ask you.
Yeah,
Ms. Whitney, is there any update or?
I have heard from multiple middle school students that they're still very frustrated about that. I think they feel like they're the only grades who don't get a snack break. None of them have time to eat, and then the teachers don't let them eat in class. And then some of the teachers, I guess, are still like having them hurry, come in, even a few minutes earlier, a few minutes, or they're getting out a few minutes late. So some of them are just walking straight to their next class. So they have no bathroom breaks. And then they get a check if they go to the bathroom during class. So then they don't want to go to the bathroom during class because they're getting checks. And then they also don't have sex.
I, as a board member, ask how it can be possible that if a student has to go to the bathroom and it is not abusing the privilege, how that can result in a check. I understand if the same student says I go to the bathroom 7 times every single day, every single week, that's a problem. But if it's a one time or, once a week, they have to go to the bathroom during a class, that seems completely reasonable. If I got in trouble every time I had to go to the bathroom during a meeting, I don't know what I would do. And I don't have any real issues. It's just, so,
Just to let you know that it's on my list to reevaluate the middle school schedule for next year because I was surprised they didn't have a break. They're supposed to have a snack break.
well,
Which
it
would give them that
changed from COVID, right? And there was some discussion.
I don't know what happened during COVID, but generally speaking, every school has some kind of a snack break, nutrition break before lunch. So there's something that is missing in that schedule.
And can we get teacher input here? Is that
Middle
possible?
school teacher.
Real life, we can't.
We're not supposed to. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we're not supposed to engage.
I'll talk with the
I think-
teachers and we're going to be addressing
Okay.
that for next year as well.
Or
I
maybe
think,
right
I think the schedule changed a couple times for isolation, eating, through COVID. And I think out the back, we probably didn't go
Change it
back.
Yeah, and that's, I
Probably
remember
didn't go
talking
back
about
to
it,
what it was.
and there was going to be some movement, but then,
Yeah, and it's moving, that
Back to the-
schedule, daily schedule it's a task and a chore. And I just don't think we did it right. Second COVID. Post-COVID, I don't know if we missed something. But we can put it on we can talk about it talk about it in June, I think.
Well, and I
think
think it's an
principal's
easy
on it,
fix.
right?
I think it's
It's
an
an
easy
easy
fix
fix.
to go back to wherever you did prior.
Yeah.
It's just you can't like switch mid-year
No.
because you've
Right.
submitted your minutes and all of those
Right.
things. So we can
Yes.
change it for next year though.
thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? I'm gonna keep things rolling. New business consent action items, approval of the regular special board meeting minutes. You guys had a chance to review the meeting minutes last time?
I enjoyed the joke during last meeting about how I should watch the video and do the minutes. Found the Easter egg. Good. Heard it. That was fun. I laughed out loud.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay.
All right, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from April 13, 2022.
I'll second.
I'll be seconds. Okay. What am I looking for?
A vote.
No,
Vote.
call for the vote.
Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Nope, passes unanimously. Thank you. And from that, we'll keep rolling. The approval of the check register.
I make a motion that we approve the check register.
I second.
Wow, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? No. Any abstentions? Actually, I don't know, Topher, are you out there?
Yep.
Yep.
You're
Okay.
good?
Let us know if you said no or you are abstaining from the last two items. I
We
think
want discussion. He put his thumb up.
Camera's not on.
Okay.
Okay, all right, moving on down. So this is probably a bigger one, the approval of the safety plan. We need to talk through this.
For now. Make a motion to approve the safety plan.
That was the one that was sent out previously.
Oh, got it.
I just had a quick question. I'm sorry, I know the table, but
Can always have discussion.
was the safety plan updated to, I see, there's a section on pandemic. Quick. What resources were used to inform the creation of the pandemic section of the new safety plan?
I can tell you what originally was used. I can tell you that we sent it out to the staff, we sent it out to the board for feedback. And then James reviewed it for us as a member of the fire department, and we had the police department take a look at it as well.
James, did you review the whole safety plan?
I looked at it. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of very similar. The COVID stuff came from the district.
Okay.
So it was county language that was adopted by Todd quite some time ago.
So this is the same language that was in the.
And the original, yeah. So I think, as much as I want to be out of the pandemic, I didn't think we should take it out yet.
No, I did. Yeah, I mean, based on other safety plans that I've had to
Yeah.
deal with recently, it's very much still at everybody.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Did we get a second?
I'll second.
Uh-huh. I'll put it to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
All right.
Two abstentions.
Did we get a thumbs up on?
Carries, we got a thumbs up on Tobin. Little something here.
Yep, he's
There you
got
There
it.
we go. All right. Approval of SARC. Discussion.
So the SARC is the school accountability report card required of every school to complete on an annual basis. It's basic data about the school. The difficulty doing it this year was that the school did not complete the state testing last year. And so we had to upload the NWA MAPS scores. So it was quite a lot of work to complete it this year. But it's basic data that includes the school itself, how many students per grade. There's one section that is not complete, and that is the teacher credential section. That is supposed to be uploaded by the state of California. Most of this data comes from the state. We just review it and we update wherever is needed. We did have to complete a facility inspection tool and go through the property and look for gas leaks and cracks and all those kinds
This
of
is a
things.
self-assessment.
The self-assessment, we had to do that. But much of the data is uploaded by the state of California. And it's an annual report that the school has to complete in the spring of every year.
I make a motion, we approve the SARC.
One quick question. Do we expect the teacher credential section to be completed by the state, or is
The
that?
state is, yes, because that is from them. They just, I don't know why, it's 2 years old. The information's 2 years old. I'm not sure why it's not updated, but I did double check to make sure that that was their responsibility, and it is. So that
So
will
we're not
be
gonna get
input as soon as.
Trouble for not
Nope.
having it complete.
No, that's
All right,
theirs.
so James,
I
and then Jeremy.
James is killing it. Jeremy got the second for Talby. Let's put it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Now we're on item E, the approval of the calendar, 2022-23 calendar.
So what was the one that the teachers wanted?
Option
An
A.
egg.
I believe that, I mean, as far as I can see, isn't that our current calendar?
I think it has half has the prep days in it.
That's,
No, it doesn't.
that's option C has the staff development incorporated. It also starts a week earlier so that we can capture enrollment.
Mhm.
Because when you start later, you usually lose enrollment.
Option A is where we're at currently, starting the same day as San Diego Unified, is that correct?
I don't know that it's the exact same date. These were approved apparently a while ago.
Yep.
And you had asked to bring them back, and then we incorporated option C to kind of help with enrollment. And the two issues we were having, one was enrollment and the second one was incorporating staff development days. Those are accommodated in option C.
Option A is the most similar to San Diego Unified with the same start date. Option B was the one starting after Labor Day.
Correct, it's not the same spring break because it's the ski week and then the later spring break.
So option C is the August start, right? The early start, and that is the one that accounts for professional development days.
We incorporated half days, I think 8 times a year, so we could have staff development provided on a monthly basis.
And the staff development days, are we, so, you know, based on the commentary that we've received this evening, I assume that is one of the challenges for staff development, the like scheduling opportunity for it?
Yes.
And this addresses that?
Yes.
Yeah, and that is not addressed in either of the other options.
I think there's a few staff development, but it's not.
We never built, it wasn't built really into, right, the previous ones.
There's 2 days listed, I think. On
So-
option
But,
A.
I mean, the input was given by the teachers, we made the adjustment, but we technically already voted on the calendar, but we voted to reopen.
We wanted to reopen it.
We wanted to reopen it to create those days and get more feedback from the parents.
Yeah.
And staff. And now it's a little confusing because the staff doesn't want it. I mean, the majority of the staff doesn't want it.
Right, the majority of the staff chose option A, which.
So the majority of it, I don't know that that's a fair
Or
assessment.
plurality. of staff.
7 don't care or aren't coming back.
Right.
For those who did chose option, I talked with those who chose the different options, and those who said option A was because of they want to keep the late start. That was the biggest reason.
Got it.
So I think option C would be more desirable if the late start was still kept.
Right, the problem with that is then if you're building in the development days, you're building in the half days, right, the benefit of, and then, and I think to Ms. Medeiros' point, starting when, what I know number of the private schools are the week earlier, that gives us a leg up because we have lost kindergarten kids, we have lost other kids who go to other schools and then they don't want to switch over. And so by having this, it at least gives us a chance to put our best foot forward early on. And I will tell you personally, it's horrible for me because I was supposed to be in Hawaii with the kids, but if that's what's gonna happen, then we'll make it work. I'm here for it, you're paying. But no, I think from a school standpoint, from hearing what the teacher said earlier today, as well as what we've heard in the past, building in that extra time, those development days, those half days, is something that's very important. And if that means that we have to start a little bit earlier, I'm guessing, and you can be the voice of reason for that, I'm guessing that that is a reasonable trade-off to be able to build that in during the school year.
I mean, I completely agree. I'm just here to represent the staff, and the staff voted option A. So I can't really share how I feel or what I think would be best. I think that if the staff wants option A, that's what I'm gonna vote for. But if you want to go with option C, I will have to abstain, but I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, it's true, 4 members of the staff.
Right, that's where I get kind of hung up is it's not a majority voting for A. Right.
Right.
And the 4 that does put in there, I hear the later start is awesome for all of us, but I think the overwhelming number of teachers didn't vote for A. Right.
So then C has the teachers back on the 18th, school starting on the 23rd, so that's quite early. And then where are the staff development days? They're half days?
The half days, almost every month, there's like 8 of them. They're not all listed, it looks like here, but if you look at the half days, minimum days, end of quarter minimum days, those include staff development components,
And that's in C.
and that's in C.
Do you think that was clearly articulated to did you get a sense from the teachers that they
I
honed in on the
just
development?
gave them to the teachers and I said, what option
Just
do you like
these
best?
printouts?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Begs the
mean,
question about whether like the real strategic decisions were evaluated. The real plus minus they
Evident about the.
And at the last board meeting, since I did watch it entirely, as you know, there was,
Clearly, the minutes were kept.
thank you. I appreciate that. There was a discussion about this topic, that there had been a discussion in the past about trying to evaluate a schedule that didn't have this key week and then what that might look like. I know for a fact I'd be in favor of that option if that helped in some of the gives and takes to get us, better aligned. But
so I will say that the teacher specifically asked about option B because they liked the later start of option B, but they didn't like that there was no ski week. So the teachers are definitely in favor of this ski week because they knew that.
As a teacher, do you think that the gap, I'm curious about, so you've got, sorry, I'm just looking. So you've got Thanksgiving, and then you're back for 3 weeks, and then you've got 2 weeks off again. Are those 3 weeks between, that, pardon me, the Thanksgiving and Christmas time? Is that dead time? Is that weird time? Because it's just stuck in between holidays?
A little bit. I mean, we don't do a lot of really challenging academic things, I think, during that time. Is there a reason why you're asking though?
Oh, just because, I think that the other, possibility would be, maybe not for next year, just the way it lines up with weekend, but would be doing that last week of December and the first week of January rather than,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
that having more like 4 weeks.
Right.
In between. I don't know, that's getting into it. We've got 3 options.
How disruptive, because here's what I'll say is that this is why I don't necessarily like surveys, because it's not giving us the data we're looking for. And I would say there is a calendar that we have already voted on. And is it disruptive to bring this back and take out the I don't care as an option of the survey? Or I'm not coming back and just get a true vote of
But
what
even the
the
ones who
staff
aren't
feels.
coming back,
It's the staff. I mean, we can only go on what the staff tells us.
But we're in
So-
May. We're in May and we're talking about a school year that's starting in 4 months.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
Quite
can
quite
get
literally.
that's what I mean. So what
So
I'm
if
saying
we're gonna
is,
change, I don't know, we can punt till next month on the hopes that we get some more information from some. I think we're gonna have to make a decision as a board that says, hey, we stick with what we did, or look, we have talked for a while about adding half days, adding staff development and helping our teachers in that way. Also helping the school from an economic standpoint, from a butts and seats standpoint, by moving it a little bit earlier. We also get out earlier, right? So it's not like we're giving a week away.
No, no.
but what I'm saying is we opened the schedule based on the input from the staff.
Correct.
And now we're about to sit up here and vote maybe against the staff because we don't really have the data. I mean, we don't.
Which is the approved as of now?
Hey.
And that's what the staff seems to be supporting, but we heard repeatedly that,
We don't have enough
development.
A doesn't have what the teachers asked for,
Right.
is my trepidation of moving forward.
So is
Yeah.
it possible to just add the PD days into option A, but keeping the start and end times?
Yeah.
To take into the wanted and needed PD days?
And to be
I
fair,
would think,
that's,
but I would say it's not in front of us.
right, but that's why I think the board last meeting talked about a 4th option, which would be revisiting, potentially removing the ski week and maybe spreading out those development days throughout the rest of the year. If you've got time during that ski week where you're actually in school.
Yeah,
So-
we're also hearing that they don't want them to skew.
Right.
So there's always different.
Yep.
data.
And that's why at the end of the day, what we have heard repeatedly, and even what we're hearing tonight, not what's on the paper, is four people voted for A, but what we've heard repeatedly is what's provided in C.
Yeah, there were obviously six teachers. who
And while we
said
can't
need more
poll,
development.
right, while we can't poll the audience, I'm sure as we look around, and there's probably some nodding heads that, look, we need teacher development days, and we want that, those half times, and we want, butts in seats. This brings us to that.
I would say I do agree with Natalie, though, if we went with option A and just added those professional development days in, we still have plenty of instructional minutes to just take some of these days and turn them into half days.
Because it doesn't matter about the days off, it just matters about the minutes that you meet.
And the minutes are more plenty, so.
So the problem is we're kicking the can again, so then we need to look at something where we've actually figured out what those dates are. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world to do it June 8th, I mean, that's 3 weeks, right?
3 weeks from now.
3 weeks from now, so to get it right and to hopefully address the staff concerns, have that. And there's two conflicting things, but wanting to address the staff later start time and wanting to get more butts in the seats, so that is an important thing that we need to talk.
And they're in conflict.
Yeah, they're in conflict.
And to add to it, if you watched what SDUSD just did to their calendar,
What did they do?
they didn't change this year, so they didn't change next school year that starts in August. But the year after that, school starts August 14th and ends May 31.
So a lot of schools do.
And it is a huge change, and it shortens a couple summers during the transition. And it was done pretty quickly without a lot of scuttlebutt. I was surprised to see. So we're going to be revisiting this next year, and the opportunity to start at least with SDUSD or before is going to be another decision. So they just changed their calendar early this week or last week.
And that in and of itself tells you then, if we're gonna even just match up with them, that shrinks our us already, right? So, and because if we stay with option A, we're getting out a week later. You go to C, we start a little bit earlier, so we are compressing the summer by a few days, but we're also getting out earlier as well, so we're not gonna have that, because we're gonna have to at least match, otherwise we will lose butts and seats. Because the practicality and the financials of this is, at least where we stand today, let's say 8:30 passes, or 8:40. 8:30, but for now, we can't plan on that. What we have to plan on is butts and seats. What Ms. Padilla, you said, if you don't see their eyes,
Don't see the whites of their eyes, you can't count.
you can't count. And so we're up against a rock and a hard place, because we're gonna have to condense next summer even more if we don't do this.
And personally, I think that if we don't get ahead, especially knowing that SDUSD is starting in 2 years, year and a half,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But if we don't count on these kids who potentially want to start early this coming fall, then we're basically going to have even more competition. I mean, I think that the chance of us starting early this year potentially could get us more students that will remain next year.
Or we're gonna lose 3 weeks of summer next year.
I don't think
And it offers
any of these
them
options
some things.
do what we wanted them to do or appeases the majority of the staff.
I also have another question. I know you don't like surveys, nor do I, but no, I actually, I know also that in previous times that we also surveyed the community. Is that something that we should also do? Not to say that we have the time for it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a
We represent.
noble thought, but at this
Right.
stage of the game involving
It's too late
having
for
more
Or they-
voices
Yeah,
is
yeah.
tough, it's problematic. Because this was something that we did get consensus from the larger community once upon a time, a year ago, and that's how we based it on option A. So I hate to kick the can, but I think June 8th gives us a little more time to evaluate. Hopefully allows the staff to go back and talk amongst themselves and better understand that there are days that are built in with an earlier start time. And then get word on the street from you, maybe informally, maybe through one of these, and then we can make a decisive action. So,
Zach, I won't be here, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys all ahead of time, I want the earlier start.
there are good reasons for it.
Yeah,
And honestly, we're looking at the difference of 2 votes on the staff. It's not like the staff said no and overwhelmingly approved option A.
But they should also be made aware of what, you know,
What the
what the
consideration.
ramifications are.
And the impact of the change at SDUSD for next year, because we legitimately will have to start 3 to 3.5 weeks earlier than planned. That compresses the summer more. And by starting earlier this year, we get out a week earlier next year. So that reduces the compression.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're losing a third of your summer next year.
I think it's an important point. I think just circling back when we heard earlier today, making it known that, hey, we heard you, we saw what you said. Talk about it, understand the considerations that are out there, SDUSD, getting more people in the seats, getting more development days. That's where we're leaning. That's the reasoning why, and we'll make a decision on June.
and maybe just an ABC, just an option of the 3 calendars, not anything else.
So you
because-
want the input of those who are leaving?
Yeah. Yeah, because we still serve. And they're all still very good teachers. even though they're not seniors.
All right. No votes. We're moving on. Where are we?
Donations the plan on that has been changed, so we have to sit down with the foundation.
We
Okay.
also need to add
Okay, we need to approve that for one of our action items. Okay, so that is to shift the meeting from June 15th to June 8th.
We need 2 board meetings in June.
Yep.
Partially for the LCAP, because the first meeting will be, we weren't able to get it done, so the first meeting will be review, the second meeting will be approval. And we need it to be done at a regularly scheduled board meeting, so we're actually adjusting the board's schedule for the year. It's not a special board meeting, we're adding this board meeting to our regular schedule.
The dates would be
June 22nd. The 8th is already on the calendar.
Okay.
It would be adding June 22nd.
And we needed to do a fiscal thing by the 23rd.
24th, so that works. So we'll be ready.
Virtual.
So I'm going to, I guess,
I'll make a motion to add the regular board meeting on June 22nd.
I'll second. Vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. I'm going to assume that we got the thumbs up. All right, we are going to move into closed session. Thank you again for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Nothing to report out of closed session. Thank you for joining us. Good night.